So this morning I want to talk about what being a man or woman of valor is. I will say this, and I say this with a slight grin. I have no intentions of being this too long-winded. But what is a man or woman of valor? Now, you could go to the Kendrick Brothers movies, and which is courageous, and he talks about it at the end and everything. But when you start looking at being a man or woman of valor, what does that represent? Scripture says a man of valor or a woman of valor, that word valor represents strength, power, and might. Now, what you have to understand is Gideon was being called this before he ever did anything. He was threshing wheat. Tedious. He wasn't in war. It wasn't a battle. He hadn't accomplished this amazing thing before God said, listen, I'm calling you out of the wine press where you're hiding to be a mighty warrior. Gideon didn't have any proof behind why God wanted to do this. Strength. Valor. Being a man or woman of valor. Again, Gideon hadn't arrived when he was called this. Strength. To withstand great force or pressure in the midst of love or war. To have that strength to love someone when it's difficult or to war. To be able to withstand great force or pressure without quitting. Valor. Might. A great and impressive power or strength. Not necessarily physical strength. We're not going to measure how each of us bench press or what weight we can squat, or I don't even think they call it squatting anymore. It's deadlifting or something like that. You can tell me how often I go to the gym. But it's a great, impressive power or strength. Efficiency or ability under the definition of valor. Functioning in the best possible manner with knowledge and skill. Efficiency and ability. Remember, Gideon hadn't done any of this yet. Wealth. I do love that text sound, by the way. I know whose it is. Abundant wealth. Abundance of valuable and plentiful supplies, source, wisdom, or knowledge. There's a plentiful amount of wisdom. You may not have it at that moment, but you know where to get it. You know where to go to obtain it. The last definition or word under valor throughout the Strongs and online was force or army. An attribute of energy or strength as in action. This isn't passivity. This is moving forward. This is being engaged at some level that you are representing valor in your strength, in your might, how we perceive things, how we act in things. We're not giving up. We're not stopping. We continue to press onward. We start looking for ways to have resources of knowledge and wisdom. Men of valor. And I looked at this and went, okay, you've got the men of valor that are listed later on in, I think it's Judges, about thousands of men that were called men of valor because they went into the army without care of their own to accomplish the task. So I went to handy dandy Google. And then I reached out to a few friends. And I wanted to know, because I know the military gives a Medal of Valor. And I wanted to know what the stipulations were for a Medal of Valor. If Gideon was being called a man of valor long before he ever acted, I wanted to know prophetically what, if you will allow me to just blend the two for a second. See, when the Lord called Gideon, he was saying prophetically, you are a man of valor. This is what I've called you to be. This is what, if you join me, and I join you, this is what you will accomplish in your life. So I want to know what a U.S. Service Medal of Valor was. I've heard it mentioned. I don't think I've ever personally met anyone with one. If I do, I didn't know it, which means they're being very humble about it. But it says U.S. service members who distinguish themselves through conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty. I think back at Gideon. Gideon went above and beyond the call of duty with what he had. Why? Because he knew God was with him. Think about the war. Think about the battle where they whittled down from 10,000 to 300 to a small number with pitchers and noisemakers. Above and beyond. He didn't stop when it seemed like it was insurmountable or that there was too many people. He just continued on. In our current operation as believers, we do say there are more for us than against us because of believers in flesh. But our battle is not against flesh and blood. And the enemy is great. And if we considered the numbers of the enemy, there's sometimes we might want to think about quitting. But being a man or woman of valor means when we consider the threat, when we consider what the enemy has and all of its schemes and its abilities, we still can't quit. We can't give in to those things. We can't give in to rejection. We can't give in to idolatry. We can't give in to fear. We can't give in to all of those things. Even though it feels great and the pressure is immense, we still cannot give in.